everybody. What's happening? It's Blair Johnson with the Badass Records podcast, here to remind you what this thing is about, and that is you and some of your favorite records. Also here to remind you there's plenty of ways to support the podcast should you choose to do so. One, like, subscribe, follow on YouTube, wherever you stream your audio, or on the Twitters and Instagrams. If you want to buy some merch, it's another good way to support. The site is badassrecordspodcast.com. Get yourself a hoodie, stocking cap, a coffee mug, what have you. Last but not least, be a guest. Hit me up on email, badassrecordspodcast@gmail.com, or DM me on the socials, Instagram or Twitter, and we'll see if we can't get you in the chair. Appreciate you stopping by. Hope you enjoy the show. I think that if all goes well, we'll be doing episode 114 of Badass Records podcast.
All right.
Hanging out with David Regnier.
That's right.
David Regnier. Okay. I questioned myself for a second there.
It's not an easy one.
But thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So I can scratch off my... well, before we get to that... musically, musician-wise, not a huge that I could find digital footprint for you. Mm-hmm. I came across Dead Voices.
Yep.
Which has a bandcamp. Mm-hmm. And that's an outfit that you're a part of?
It's my band.
It's your band.
It's the band that I write songs for. I write songs for and sing. Okay.
And how long has it been around?
We first got together around 2012.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow.
I think we put out a kind of an EP, but long songs, 6 songs. So it's like a self-titled Dead Voices. We put out in probably 2012, I think. Okay. And then then we eventually put out another album in 2018.
Okay, mm-hmm. So you've got 2 on both on your Bandcamp.
Yeah, and we just played throughout that time. Nothing hardcore, no like major touring or anything like that. Just playing as much as we could.
And how many of you got a decade plus? How many of you are in the outfit?
Dead Voices was a 5-piece for quite a while. And then the last, I think we pared it down. We pared it down to a 4-piece, probably around 2016 or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe 17. I can't remember.
Do you guys currently still get together, gig, write, practice?
Well, still friends with everybody. We're not playing. I kind of stopped. I stopped playing the Dead with pandemic. I ended up stopping that outfit, stopping playing live. I still play with some of the guys, but it's not... I kind of just felt like moving on from the title of Dead Voices, and I felt like I wanted to get my name. I wanted to get my name on the marquee from then on. Okay. So I'm kind of just working with... the gigs that I've done over the past... I guess a couple of years I've been going with David Regnier's Optimist Club.
Okay. And now
that's like if there's a rock and roll show that I get invited to play, I'll put together a band and we'll do a rock and roll show. Okay. If someone asks me to do a wedding, I will find people to do the wedding. You know, if it's an acoustic thing, I'll put together a band. So
Sure.
that's the Optimist Club, just kind of like the umbrella
Yeah.
for me being able to, not really having a exact band, but enjoying playing live. So.
Yeah. So does the Optimist Club have anything online where folks can sort of keep tabs on stuff going on? Or?
No, there's nothing online. We have. I did a recording with a group of some old time kind of country, folky, folk type material. We did a 16 song recording a few years ago. Andrew Morris played on it. Fritz played on it.
Nice. Both great dudes who I just met doing the,
Yep. So they were part of that thing that time, and then some of the band members from Dead Voices. I'll do things with them.
Cool.
That's all. That's all there. So
Yeah.
just kind of floating as far as like performing live. I'm just kind of floating around that kind of.
Okay.
Being able to have a different band each
Sure.
time I get out and do anything.
Nice. What a luxury. I think.
I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate to know some of the best players, some of the sweetest people. Maintain those friendships for the better part of 20 years. So, yeah, I'm fortunate to have people I can call, and a lot of times they'll say yes.
Cool. So I guess then the best place to see what's happening with you musically is just your Facebook page. Is that accurate or?
I mean, anything that I'm doing, anything that I would do in the future, I mean, it would be my Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be it.
Okay.
I mean, Bandcamp, you can go to look at the Dead Voices stuff, and, eventually more content will be available, but it hasn't really been getting content online hasn't really been the higher goal.
Okay. Fair
over
enough.
the past few years. It's been content as in writing songs and just continually getting better at singing, writing songs. I mean, that's what my main focus
Cool.
is. Mm-hmm.
I did. I know at least I came across Jason Beers. I think had given you writing credit for a track on his Bandcamp, and I thought that I saw something else where it was like this song, it wasn't your page or your outfit, but it was like you're part of something or getting
Mm-hmm.
credit for something. So I mean, kind of here and there, it does seem like you know a ton of musicians locally.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, I've been, when I moved to Kansas City for music and immediately did what you do to try to meet people, start a band, and just through that process, and I've made good friends, and I've met a lot of a lot of people. I mean, Kansas City's the main like the meat of the music scene is pretty accessible if you're in the right place.
Sure.
And then once you meeting one person who is connected to this thing, and that happened very quickly for me in Kansas City, just because I was out there doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, out there, whatever. I mean, trying to start a band mainly with my friend Danny Fisher, who he ended up here, so I moved here to start work with him.
Okay.
So we did a bunch of stuff. I mean, we did, the first year was a little bit trying because just outsiders and, making friends and all that stuff. But then, I ended up meeting the Rural Grit community, which is this Monday. I don't know if you've heard of that,
Mm-hmm.
but meeting them, that was in
The Brick
2001, I
Monday
guess.
evenings for
The Brick.
25 years or something.
Yeah, and at that time, 2001, it was at the Grand Emporium.
Oh, I didn't
So,
realize it had changed homes.
oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I mean, I did. I mean, I met a ton of people through there. I'm still good friends with a lot of people there, and that's mainly that scratches the like old timey country blues itch. A little bit of I don't really do bluegrass per se, but I love American roots music. I always have, and I mean I got into it pretty heavily like in the mid '90s, but then eventually Real Grit. You know, when I wasn't trying to write a rock and roll song or be in a rock and roll band, that stuff was always there at the same time.
Sure.
So it's just a constant, constant influx of musical information. I mean, that's if I'm, you know, always loved rock and roll. Got into roots music. I mean, just the pathway, the journey is just like, fantastic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So it took a little bit to get into like an overall kind of like bar rock and roll type scene. I mean, we were here for a year. Life, whatever, hit a few curveballs, and then start doing more rock and roll stuff. I mean, it's like I cut an album with a banjo player live thing, doing old time stuff in 2001, and within a year I was part of a 3-piece no bass blues like punk rock and roll thing called
Whoa.
Mike Piper.
Okay.
And that was with Danny. And that was the loudest. I mean, Danny wrote the songs and they were amazing. I mean, we had a blast. We put out 2 albums within a couple years, and next thing you know, Danny has another project called The After Party, and I kind of nudged my way into that band.
Sure.
Wasn't invited, but I was hanging around when, Danny was throwing these songs at another friend of ours. And, so I ended up being, and of course, credit to Danny for really, I mean, he really I was the lead guitar player, I was just, cheerleader, lead guitar player,
Sure.
right? Did some backing vocals and whatnot. But, from Mike Piper to The After Party, we did 3 albums. After a slow start from 2000 to 2001, we ended up, we did a lot of music from 2001 to 2008.
Recording wise and live gigging wise.
6 albums. I found time to cut an album with a 2-piece duet thing, actually it was a trio, but harmony singing with a female singer, a band called Dirty May.
Okay.
We did that for a while. I mean, we didn't do a ton of shows, but it was learning old time songs, learning country songs. Harmony singing is, I'm not actually a very good harmony singer, but I enjoy singing with a female voice a lot. And I've had, I don't know if you know who Lauren Crum is.
Sounds
The Grizzly Hand.
Okay.
She does Lorna Kay's One Night Stand. She's a great singer. And her and I did a duet called Ruddy Swain.
Oh.
Which kind of picked up where the other duet thing left off,
Nice.
So lots of country music, lots of singing, that was all happening at the same time, like everything else was.
Cool.
So
I mean, it's from, my seat, it sounds like a fun, adventuresome journey.
well, I I love singing. Always have. And it's just a means. It's like I have to sing.
Sure.
I have to play guitar and I have to sing. I have to write. So whatever facilitates that.
Absolutely.
So that's keep the creativity going in whatever capacity. So yeah, I mean, even when I'm not out and about in town, or publicly, um, I'm always working on music,
Sure.
whether it's
Yeah, a
songwriting or.
spot in the home where all your gear lives, and you go to work your magic, or you just
Well,
what?
it's kind of a small house, and there's three of us.
Okay.
So I just have to pick and choose. Maybe it's the basement.
Okay.
Maybe it's maybe it's my daughter's bedroom when she's not there. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I feel you.
I mean, that's yeah. I mean, I write at work. I write. It's I don't have my guitar at work, obviously, but
Right.
so you have to kind of find ways to continue the keep the fires going and
For sure.
yeah.
So, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Like born and raised there, and to Kansas City was your first departure, or did you bounce around elsewhere first?
Born and raised in Green Bay, but I mean, I left. I wouldn't call them failed attempts, but they were. I left multiple times and things didn't work out. So, um, I mean,
Because you wound up back there, or whatever you left to do.
well, you go do migrant work out in Maine, raking blueberries, and then you run out of money, so it's like, a few months goes by and you're like, well, I guess I better go back to the homestead,
Sure.
restart. Do that. Lived in LA for 7 months.
Really?
Did that at one point.
Was that any fun, or was it stressful, or both? Or?
It was the highs and the lows where it was peaks and peaks and ditches.
Okay.
I do enjoy LA quite a bit.
Even today.
I would go. Yeah, no. I mean, if there's I mean, I was kind of. I always think about it. I'm like, God, it was so stressful. Just all the complications of trying to. I went there for music, and you meet people, and you realize, you just meet a lot of off-colored characters.
Sure.
But even when I left, I was like, man, if I could, man, I could work for a landscape company and just enjoy LA because it's just, I mean, it's gorgeous, man.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, the weather's gorgeous. I obviously I was only there for 7 months, but I actually spent multiple times in LA besides living there. Multiple trips in my 20s. So I had a lot of good times in LA. But to be
something
in
like traffic never bothered you? Nothing like that? Crowds, whatever, what have you, costs?
no, I mean, traffic is a drag.
Yeah.
But I mean, culturally, the benefits. I mean, it's hard to beat, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the traffic being in a traffic jam is not fun. But the opportunity to, like I said, explore culture, everything that is under that umbrella, food, artwork. I mean, it's why it's hard to beat. Like New York, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
it's hard to
course.
beat. I mean, those are you make compromises when you're rewarded with such kind of cool
Yeah.
stuff.
So Maine, LA, any other ventures outside of Green Bay?
Nothing crazy. I mean, nothing really to mention. I mean, in order to get out of Green Bay, I had to make a certain amount of money to clear up a debt, and in order to do that, a buddy of mine had bought a home in Milwaukee, Wisconsin,
Okay.
and he needed some work done. And I was able to go, and so I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for a month, destroying myself doing this job, drywalling and plastering and painting, and that was the last like Wisconsin thing that I did.
Okay.
And Milwaukee's great too.
Sure.
But yeah, made the did that job. paid the debt and got out of town.
Cool.
So
Are the family still in Green Bay? Do you get back ever, or
I get back when I can.
when you can?
I mean, I've been here I moved here in October of 2000, and the first the first couple of years I went back a couple times a year.
Yeah.
And then slowly that just waned.
Yeah.
Couldn't always do it.
Yeah. Are your folks still around? And if so, are they? Is that where they are?
That's where they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any idea how they met?
How my folks met?
Uh
There was it was a common friend that my mom had. Well, it was a friend that my mother had. Actually, I think it was my mom's sister, and they knew of my father. So I think they got introduced
Sure.
like that. Yeah.
Siblings?
I have a half brother and a half sister.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And where are you age wise? Are you oldest in the middle?
I'm the youngest.
The youngest. Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Were mom and dad folks that liked to play music in the home when you guys were little, or
There was music all the time.
all the time?
Music, playing records. My dad. Yeah, I mean, my dad is a musician.
Okay.
And by the time, I mean, as soon as I can even remember. I mean, there were always records being played, and I don't know how young I was, but my dad, who initially was a drummer, he was a drummer. This is like in the 50s.
Okay.
Like Roy Orbison, Elvis, all the rock and roll stuff. I mean, of the 50s, Buddy Holly,
Yeah.
So he was a drummer, and he played drums for a guy named Ed Sprudels, I think is the name. But and Ed was like this tall guitar player guy, and all the girls would be hanging around this guy, and eventually my dad was like, I think I need to start playing guitar. So he taught himself to play guitar.
Cool.
He always had a good voice. And then, time goes on. Eventually, both my parents had married and then remarried to each other. And,
They married each other twice.
well, they separate
But,
families came together. My mom married, divorced. Dad married, divorced. And then they came together
Oh, I see.
afterwards.
I see. Gotcha.
Two separate marriages,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
But my dad taught my mom how to play drums.
Really?
So they could have a band. And I mean, totally my dad, but basically because they needed to make extra money to pay off the house.
Okay. Smart.
And so my dad taught her how to play drums. They had a band the name of the band was called the Night Beats. And they did weddings, gigs, bar stuff. Green Bay it's kind of ridiculous the amount of bars per capita. I think it's been well documented, but so back in the 60s and 70s and, even into the 80s, there's a Broadway Street had, I don't know, 20 some bars on it,
Wow. Is that the main drag, Broadway?
It was on the west side of town, but it was close to the factories, so there were the 3 a.m., well, not 3 a.m., there was the bars would be open for the third shifters. So yeah, so there would be like, the 7 a.m. bars and there's the nighttime bars, but tons of music. Green Bay is a pretty musical town.
Interesting.
And so they played, you could play a couple times a month. You could play four, maybe, I don't know how many times they really, maybe a few times a month. At the most probably, but you could just go and play Broadway, play the bars, and then if you're good enough, people would invite you to do private stuff. So they did that. So yeah, there was a lot of music. I don't actually recall them rehearsing at all.
Interesting.
My dad would learn the songs and sing them, and then my mom I guess they'd put it together. I don't recall how they ever really put it together, but
So, if Dad's listening to music in the home, Roy Orbison, Elvis, Buddy Holly, this kind of stuff is what he was into.
Yeah, I mean, well, we had the Beatles, we had the Rolling Stones, Emmylou Harris was huge,
Okay.
Dolly Parton,
Nice.
yeah, Elvis, a lot of Elvis.
And were half siblings under your roof full time or part of the week, or how did?
I didn't grow up with my sister. I didn't grow up with my sister at all. I grew up with my brother, and he took up drums.
Okay.
Actually, later on. I mean, we all kind of did. I mean, I learned how to play drums just by emulating my mom. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, all right. So he plays drums. I can get around on a kit. You know, so.
Nice.
But yeah, so there was, yeah, I mean, kind of there just was always music going on.
Sure.
You know, I mean, the first thing I ever recorded was this a cappella version of, it's a Buddy Holly song called "Oh Boy," and you know, I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Put a tape in this little recorder thing that had the blue button, and recorded myself singing, you know, Buddy Holly songs.
Nice.
just for kicks, you know. So, I mean, obviously the guitar was there. I mean, I started playing guitar when I was 6 years old. I mean, and as soon as I started, I mean, I could do it, you know.
Wow.
It wasn't like, it wasn't. It's just something I was able to do and something I was gravitated. I mean, not that I even really. I guess did I gravitate toward it? I suppose I did. I mean, it was around the house. I mean, it was just there.
Yeah.
You know. So you pick up a guitar. You know, I had this little Maybell acoustic guitar. God, I think it's. I mean, super small body thing. You know, perfect for a kid.
Yeah.
Nylon string. Still have it at the house, of course.
Awesome.
But I mean, I started playing. My dad wrote out some chord charts and you know the keys, the most of the keys and whatnot. And I mean, I started playing, and as soon as I could figure out, you know, anything, I mean, I was trying to write a song right away.
Oh wow, cool.
And the first song that I guess the first song that he taught me was CCR. Yeah, there was a lot of CCR at the house. What's about the storm? Let's see. No, it was
Bad Moon Rising.
Bad Moon Rising. Bad Moon Rising. That was the first song that I learned.
That's
if I can remember.
Right. You know, I can't. Whenever I hear CCR, instantly the Susie Q riff. It starts running through.
There was a lot of CCR that happened at the house too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably gonna happen as we go through this discussion. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Nice. So did mom come to this relationship and this eventual band with her own tastes, or did all that develop when
she's a farm girl in a small, you know, whatever farm, grew up on a farm.
Okay.
So country music.
Okay.
That's where that was.
What about your brother? What was he into? What's he into now?
Classic rock.
Okay.
I mean, we all were kind of, so let's see, I was born in 1973. And Green Bay, besides, you know, oddly enough, having a pretty cool music scene, different scenes over the years, you know, classic rock is, that's it.
The Midwest, yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
From Kansas City to Detroit, that's what you're born on. You know, that's the deal. Sometimes I make fun of I'll listen to, I'll be writing a song or maybe I'll go back and listen to something to maybe double check, you know, whatever, if I forgot a lyric or something like that. I'm like, am I just writing classic rock song? Like, is that what I'm doing? The only thing I've changed is I don't do like the bombastic solos and stuff like that. I try to have the band do the musicality. Like if there's going to be a break, like no singing, I try to have the band do it. So it's like, I think maybe I'm probably just aping this classic rock thing. But, you know, whatever.
Hey, as long as there's no ill will or malice behind it, who cares, right?
No. You know, I'm definitely a music critic. I could go on for hours about, you know, things that I don't like.
Sure.
But it's that's all part of it. It's like, I remember talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, I'm sick of. I'm like, I cannot. I don't want to hear Fleetwood Mac or the Eagles ever again. I'm sick of. And I was like, Fleetwood Mac, this like, just basically shooting it down, right? And my buddy's like, maybe you might want to just re-listen to some of the music because I think you more so hate the idea or the ideology of like what that time period was. Maybe you're not. Maybe with the radio friendly type stuff, and it was a cool little conversation. I was like, yeah, I will. Yeah, I mean, I was getting,
I mean, if
being too judgmental, and
if we hadn't had a third to half of rumors pounded into our skulls, like that might still be a very, very appealing record because it is good, but there's a maximum number of I got into pre-Stevie Fleetwood Mac for a quick sec. Like there's a Live in London and a Live in Chicago bootleg that are just
yeah, it was Peter Green.
killer. And then I'm like, you go from that to that, and then it just obviously stayed that. But somebody had Tusk on their list, which I had not ever listened to, and I was like, God, this is pretty good stuff.
It's good, yeah. And you realize, even though you're like, oh, the System, these guys, this band is huge for whatever reason. I mean, it's quality. It's original sounding stuff. Nobody sounds like Fleetwood Mac.
Right.
Nobody does it like that. The Eagles, very good. I mean, it's good for what it is. And, I mean, I still listen to classic rock. I mean, I still do it, and I mean, now I'm more open to some of the stuff that I had not liked, so to speak, mainly for everything's kind of like a learning thing for me. I'm trying to just continually, take in stuff. Like on the way here, there was nothing on the radio, and I was like, I'll go to the classic rock button. And Eddie Money.
2 tickets?
2 Tickets to Paradise, right? And I'm like, God, this rhythm section is killer, dude.
Oh, for real?
God dang. The drummer, I'm just like, dude, that is the best. I mean, some of the best timing, some of the best feel. It's hard to beat, so
the female vocal in that track just it's either 2 tickets or Shaken.
Well, the female vocal, I think it's no, it's I think you might be thinking of Ronnie Spector.
Be My Little Baby.
Be My Little
Take
Baby
Me Home
scenario.
Tonight. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Yeah, no,
That,
different song. Yeah,
sorry, Eddie Money.
that's all right. I mean, it's classic rock. They bleed into each other.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's still listen to classic rock, kind of a learning thing. 'Cause you find out like, this was influenced by this, or this dude played in this band, or these two used to be whatever.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of good stuff. I mean, the sound, it's like, that's part of it that keeps me going, like, continually, wanting to mine, the archives of all that stuff is, recording on tape, the old processes of recording. Nothing sounds like Led Zeppelin.
No.
I mean, nothing sounds like AC/DC. These guys were doing, at the time, the technology was, it's not as cool as, some, early 60s, like, garage stuff. I love that real raw stuff. But, I guess maybe it is just as cool. I don't know. The sound and the way that they recorded, that frequency is gone,
Yeah.
So part of the appeal, it's not just like, oh, I want to hear a Foghat song, because no, I don't. Right. I don't care if I ever have,
right.
I don't need it, right?
Right.
But being into sound,
going to get Aerosmith tickets, man.
yeah, dude, give me some.
Isn't that what they listen to in Dazed and Confused? They listen to Slow Ride on the way to
Slow
go.
Ride, yeah, I mean, yeah, fantastic, right? But it's the sound of that stuff that is still, for me, just very. It's just very. I don't know. I mean, it's like the quality is palpable for me.
Yeah.
So you can't. It's not only just going back to listen to some of your old favorites or whatever, it's like my body actually needs it.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what
I need to listen to Big Bill Brunzi once in a while.
Oh.
I need to listen to Robert Johnson. It's just something my body will tell. Like I was going, it's like a couple weeks ago there was some heavy stuff going on with the KKFI DJ that got killed at the Chiefs rally, right? And I've been down to KKFI.
Yep.
Sustaining member. They're like family, and I'm like circulating this, this energy, this negativity, and all of a sudden it just came to me. I was like, you know what? I think you need to listen to Bob Marley today.
Love
and
that.
I was just like, I was like,
push the Bob Marley button.
Push the Bob Marley button, and and lo and behold, I was there for 2 days in a row.
Nice.
And it was found a live recording, and I'm like, is this the most amazing band I've ever heard? Like the journey just continues. I'm just like, what? How do you do it?
I like that bringing up the rhythm section and Eddie Money. Like and now I want to go hear it for myself. But making little discoveries like that, especially if it's of like Tusk is a good example of being like, I am 86 Fleetwood Mac for my life forever because I've got it. I can't handle it, and then it's like, shit, okay, I'll stick around for this.
Some days you need to listen to Tusk, man.
I love when you discover that somebody who you thought was a one-hit wonder is actually just shredders. And my recent discovery with that is T-Rex. Like, I thought Bang a Gong, Get It On was it. And then it's like, God. Holy shit, dude. These guys are throwing down.
I am happy that you had found that revelation. Yeah, because that's a great example.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden you're like, so the story didn't end here.
Right.
It did not start here. And then and yeah, T-Rex, I mean, when you dig into it, you're like, this guy was part of a great time of music.
Yeah.
Influencing people doing, I mean, and he is singular, in what he sounds like.
Yes.
Even though Bowie was going on, all these other great things, it's like, yeah, there's one T-Rex, it's like, listen, those two first albums are.
You know who else? My probably to date my most profound, and this is because a buddy pointed me in that direction. Robert Palmer, as in Simply Irresistible and The Lights Are On. That he has like dozens of records, and I've listened to 2 or 3. It's top to back. They just fucking slap. I'm like, oh my God.
I might take a look at that. I know that Robert Palmer was in something before. I mean, I don't know what before his solo thing. I thought he was like in some like amazing band. I can't remember
probably
where, but
I probably learned it and then killed those brain cells. And I got to relearn it now.
But yeah, you never know, right?
Yeah. Anyway, what about shows? How early are you? Are you seeing shows with families? Are you going to concerts with middle school buddies? Like, what's your origin story there?
I mean, I think I'm trying to remember what the first show that I went to might have been. There's a kind of speed metal band called Testament.
Yeah.
It was.
They got a little FM radio play for one track.
It was maybe Testament, Anvil, and I'm not gonna remember the third band, but it was a venue, the Orpheum Theater in Green Bay. I mean, I was probably, I guess I must have been around 11.
Okay.
11 or 12.
With buddies?
My cousin.
Okay.
We just
No,
walked.
no
we just
adults?
walked down there. No, no.
Speed metal show at 11.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably get some of these dates wrong, but yeah, it was
That's
around
all
there.
good.
I mean, Danzig. I saw Danzig
Oh, wow.
at that same venue.
I feel like that's a pretty historic venue.
Whatever. Actually, the album that Mother is on.
Yeah.
Whatever year that is. So I must have been at least for 13 or 14.
Okay.
At that point. So, but yeah, I mean, I saw, and yeah, I mean, super Hesher. I mean, I was a metal guy.
Cool.
Or at least that's what I gravitated toward, that type of thing. I mean, as a young kid, Ozzy Osbourne. Then I got into, there's the Motley Crue thing, and there's the, and it's all before, like, Motley Crue as in Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, before hair metal
Before Theater Pain,
explodes.
you're just like, okay, whatever. But so metal shows, saw Metallica in town. I mean, those were the early things that I went to.
Yeah. And then, do you now? I know you get out and see a lot of live shows now, but do you ever go see like a big bill act like that, or you kind of keep it?
I do not.
Okay.
I like yeah. What have I gone to? Yeah, I really don't. I don't do the big stuff. It's like I went to see Bob Dylan. So not big venue, but big time.
Yeah.
Some friends of ours went down to Tulsa. This is a couple years ago, and I mean, I was on the fence even then because I mean the guy, getting old. I've seen it. I had, I went to see Willie Nelson, some years ago, and he had his family band play a bunch of songs, and I'm like, it's not what I'm into, and. So I just kind of didn't want to go to any, just kind of stopped going to them. But, I mean, I went to that Bob Dylan thing and I was happily surprised. I mean, it was fantastic.
Cool.
But the big shows, I don't really mess around with, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Bruce Springsteen, all those shows, skipped them. I'm a fan, but that's not the light that I would go see him.
Right.
Yeah, it's not, like right now, I mean, if anything, I mean, I would go see Neil Young. I missed him on a couple of things that I really, really regret. Like wholeheartedly regret. I don't know if I have many regrets at all, but he did this like solo thing in St. Louis, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And my buddy's like, man, we're going to go see this. We're going to see this. Actually, him and Tom Waits, those are two regrets.
Oh, man.
And I missed that. And I was, so I missed it. I was like, my buddy's like, yeah, this is fantastic. And then like I ended up seeing Neil at Farm Aid. So I'm probably mixing up these years, but I saw Neil play a couple songs at Farm Aid out at Legends, and I was like, I mean, I was crying. I couldn't believe how good, and I'm a huge Neil Young fan, right? So, but I couldn't believe how good he was sounding, and
he's got the gift, man.
He's just still there. He's so Neil. I mean,
I'm pretty well versed. 70s, all the 70s, and then some 80s. And then I got back in for, Harvest Moon and a couple of things he did in
Freedom
in the 90s.
Freedom is a fantastic album.
And the last thing I checked in on was Colorado, but he's put out a handful since.
Man, I can't keep up with that guy, man. I mean,
he's prolific as they come.
Well, and then putting out, just like, who knows? I mean, he put out the Green, what was it?
Yeah, yes.
I can't remember the full name of that, but yeah, I mean, that was an album. He's like, yeah, I cut this album in between, whatever it was, the other amazing album.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's just, I mean, he's got a ton. I did listen to him and Crazy Horse put out an album. It was a couple years ago now, but I thought it was fantastic. Like I was pretty surprised. I was like, this is good rock and roll, man. This is Neil Young.
Yeah.
This is good, hard, biting, sounds good. You know, he's in it. He's just like I don't know what it is, but his attitude is, he's just fantastic.
Have you ever watched his performance? I think at the inaugural Farm Aid, where he does. God, I'm pretty sure it's down by the river with Fish.
Oh well,
It's
nice.
like a 17-minute.
Oh, I bet it is.
It's on you. I mean, you start to it'll auto populate on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes out with a real handsome hat, and I mean, he loses it
Mm-hmm.
fairly early into their. They go banana, like Trey's just going, like we're jamming with Neil Young, like. Anyway,
I mean,
I feel like you could just point being, you can pull him from one pocket of awesomeness and put him in another, and it just always seems to work. But
yeah, definitely Neil. Well, Neil, David Bowie, Willie Nelson, and Bob Dylan. Those are, the attitude. Not that I love every single bit of music,
of course,
but the attitude that they take towards music and, best I can guess, toward life, that's like a measure. That's like a measuring stick.
Untouchables.
For me,
Rushmore.
it's like, okay, this is, do what you want to do, work your ass off at it, envision it, and make it happen, and do it, and go. Keep the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And that's that influences my music. At least, I mean, I write my own music. And I do what I do, but it's not without having people give me like little pep speeches, here and there. Yeah.
Well, double mentions of Bob Dylan, and that offers the perfect segue into your list. Which, thank you, by the way, for sharing that with me. But so if we roll through them chronologically, it's 1971 Bob Dylan Greatest Hits Volume 2. Which I was fascinated by.
Yeah.
40 studio albums for the dude, but this collection clocking in at 77 minutes with 4 sides and 21 tracks. Special for you because
the words, basically the words. I mean, I feel like I was around 17 or 18, and there was just some words that I'm trying to see what song here, but I mean, a lot of the words were just fascinating to me. I mean, it worked in a way that was interesting to me. I could listen, basically the poetry, his style of writing, his poetry. I was able to, I just really got into, I mean, I could understand it, but I didn't know at all what it meant.
Well said.
I could feel it.
Said, yes.
And the mystery that got created by hearing the words, that was like a puzzle that I've always, like, from, still to this day, I knew that I was going to start this giant puzzle that I would never finish.
Interesting.
But it was going to be a lot of fun putting together these pieces and then having some images show themselves over time.
I gotta say, I had a very similar experience, and perhaps often, not always, but often an added layer to it was like, I just know in my heart of hearts that I will understand the part that I don't understand right now at some point. And yeah, so mystery, intrigue, appeal, admiration, a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember the name of the song right now, but there was a line that says, "I was so much older then,
Oh yeah.
but I'm younger than that now." And I remember just puzzling over that as a kid. I'm like, what? And like, I mean, and I got that one pretty quickly, right? But I was excited, like that little journey. Like, I was actually with all the other lines that I could not figure out. You know, it was just fun for me at the time, being like, oh yeah, that's great.
There's
Cool.
a lot of those blonde on blonde with as many tracks as it has.
Oh my god.
There's one where it's like the sun is not yellow, it's chicken. There's another this kind of an upbeat number where there's somebody with a cigarette, and the next line is so and so smoked his eyelids and punched his.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Smoked his eyelids. Punched.
When I saw the cover art for this, I was convinced that Positively 4th Street was going to be on here, and I was perplexed to discover that it's not, except for the UK edition, apparently. Which I thought, when I heard Positively 4th Street, I was like, shit, I thought I knew everything Bob, and somehow, because it's never been on a record. It's never been on an album.
Right.
B-side
It was
of
a single.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lot of,
isn't it on the volume 1 greatest hits? Because there's 2 of these.
There's 3.
Oh, there's 3?
There's 3 volume greatest hits.
Oh, okay.
Volumes. Yeah. I didn't check track listing of either one.
I mean, I'm a huge Dylan guy, but I mean, fuck if I'm going to remember.
Exactly. So how did this collection come to be in your life, though?
I do not know.
Okay.
I'm guessing my parents had the double CD at the house.
Okay. Right
on. So that was it was my senior year of high school. So 91, it was like, I graduated in 92. It was like winter of 91 that I dug my heels in this stuff.
Now, it sounded as though you have a pretty solid familiarity with Neil's discography. Would you say the same is true for Bob? Do you know all of his records pretty well?
Yeah, I mean, probably more. I guess maybe equally the same. But I mean, with Bob, I'm very familiar with everything from 61, or was it 61 or 62? 61 or 62, whatever. All the way up through probably through Blood on the Tracks.
Oh, okay.
Which is mid 70s.
Yep.
I still like stuff after that, but that's like the glue.
Yeah.
Is 61 to, I don't remember when Blood in the Tracks came. I feel like it was
74, 76, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So that, and I mean, I couldn't tell you what happened after. I mean, I don't know what happened after Blood on the Tracks necessarily. I mean, Slow Train to Come In.
He had his Christian.
That's Slow Train to Come In is a cool album.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Planet Waves.
Yeah.
I enjoy. What it was? He did this covers thing. It's
it's
a covers album.
Like kind of traditional folky, older.
Yeah, well, he did. I think he did a Gordon Lightfoot song. He did a Paul Simon song. And just not very good, right?
Oh, interesting.
Not very good per se, but he knows the songs. But it's as good as it should have been, probably.
Okay.
It's like you can tell that he doesn't really. I mean, he knows the songs.
He had an album called that. Good as I should have been.
Oh, Self Portrait. That's right.
There
That's
you
what
go.
it is.
Nice.
And there's outtakes, but I've heard some outtakes from Self Portrait that are, I think Pretty Sarrow is an outtake from that, and that is one of the most gorgeous songs I've ever heard in my entire life. But it's like back to the attitude thing. I think it's I mean, it's kind of hilarious. Like, I will listen to Self Portrait. I'm just like, it's like I know Bob or something. I'm like, Bob, man, that was hilarious. I can't believe you did the boxer, man.
Right.
I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You know, you just tell it's, you know, it was just fun. And, you know, kind of knowing what was going on a little bit with him at that point, you know, it's like, that's exactly what he should have been doing.
Sure.
Just do that.
And any stuff for you, you know, late '90s or this century, Bob, that you've dug?
I mean, the I'm trying to think, I don't know the names of the albums, right? But the band that he has had together since maybe since the mid 2000s. I can't remember, but his latest band is they just are absolutely perfect. Like
Shredders.
they know what to do, and they, you know, and they don't really shred, you know.
Some of those
they
bluesy
do it.
sounding.
Yeah. I mean,
outfits.
it's I don't consider it shredding.
Crisp. How about that?
They do it well. It's what the song needs. They don't overplay.
Right.
It's
no,
the most.
yes.
It's the most in the pocket. The flourishes of color are just where they should be. It's very comfortable. The tempo of the band is, you know, so there's a couple songs I remember listening to where it was almost alarming, where I was like, have I been out of time like my whole life? Like, is this what perfect timing sounds like? Where the hell have I been, you know? You know, so those little light bulbs go off, you know, when you're like, holy cow, you know, see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had the same thing happen with that Bob Marley thing. You know, I'm like, this was so, I mean, it was visceral how spot on everybody was. And the empty space that they left is just as musical
Yeah.
as when you're playing a note. I
Yeah.
mean, it is all part of it. That's how, you know, a good song, anything like that, that's how a good band lets things breathe, you know? So, yeah, his band is fantastic. You know, I mean, it's just listening to the words. I mean, I know that he always writes good words, but, you know, as a singer, I mean, I need to be entertained with some type of, you know, a little more than what Bob has to offer vocally these days. So, you know, I mean, I can listen to Tom Waits any time of the day. He always turns me on, you know? Whether even the Heart of Saturday Night, even when he was crooning like old school '70s stuff, right? Yeah. I really like Tom Waits is always piques, like his voice always piques my interest, you know, whatever it is.
Speaking of, so you are first messing around and learning guitar at 6. At what point did you develop the skill to be able to sing and play at the same time? Because that's whole other level stuff for me.
Well, I mean, it just all kind of happened, you know. Okay. I mean, that's what it was. Like when just playing, I never separated the two.
Wow.
I mean, it was just like, because I knew that I wanted to sing. I knew we sang around the house, you know, whatever. I mean, not like we sang together, you know.
Right.
But I always wanted to sing, and that was part of it. It was like, I knew that I was going to sing right away.
Okay.
No, I mean, cool. Hands down. That's how I learned, is not just by, you know, not just by playing the guitar, but, you know, accompanying the singing.
Well, we are, we're at the hour-ish mark. Do you want to take 5 or okay? Okay, we're back, right. And our first leap from Dylan Greatest Hits Volume 2 is only 1 year ahead to 72 and Exile on Main Street, Rolling Stones, 14-28 for them, 18 tracks, 67 minutes. A couple of prior list appearances for this one, and deservedly so because it's fantastic. How big of a Stones fan are you?
How big of a Stones fan?
Yeah.
Probably the most. I mean, giant.
Over Neil and Bob.
I
know apples and oranges maybe, but
I mean, probably. Yeah, I mean, the Stones are, well, for me, the Stones are so much bigger than the Stones, right? So, when I started listening to the Stones formally, as opposed to hearing them on the radio.
Yeah, FM radio feeds you.
Like, I mean, I have, like, one of the greatest rock and roll moments in the world was me listening to Midnight Rambler in the 1985 Chevy Cavalier wagon. Midnight Rambler has this tempo change. And I remember being in the car and, like, when the tempo change came up, something happened to me physically. Like, I felt like the tempo change made me, like, I felt it in my gut. I felt like my body moved, and I was like, all of a sudden my ear, like, it just, whatever happened at that moment was, just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great feeling. And so the thing about the Stones for me, I mean, it's rock and roll, the physicality of rock and roll, bass, drums, guitar, the attitude, it's extremely physical. And that is still that's still how I play. Like, I mean, I still am a physical player, as in the architecture of the guitar and the way that it feels when you're strumming, and it is very much like that. I mean, that it'll navigate a what I'm writing about. And so it was never the words of the Stones that I'm like, oh, this is, whatever, knock me out, right? Sure, Waiting on a Friend, good stuff, right? There's a lot of things here and there. But it was the physicality, and the band. I mean, it just spoke to me. Even as a young kid, it spoke to me, but then really, formally getting into actually listening to albums and stuff like that, then that really took me a long way. But the thing about the Stones is that, so it would be roughly around that same time period, 1890, or, whatever, maybe I was 20, I don't know. But when you read the liner notes, you find out where the songs come from, which, right away led me to Muddy Waters.
Oh, okay.
Right away led me to Jimmy Reed. It led me to Slim Harpo. Led me to Mississippi Fred McDowell. I mean, the Stones catalog really kind of put me on my journey
to today.
Well, I guess you could say to today, but my hunger for where things came from is massive.
Nice.
So, and that was always, I didn't know it then, but, I wanted to know how they learned how to do what they're doing.
Sure.
I wanted to know, because I didn't talk with my parents about song structure, whatever, I didn't, and I was really pretty shy for a lot of years.
Oh, interesting.
So I wasn't like calling on my buddy and being like, geez, how do you think they figured out how to, write Jumpin' Jack Flash,
right.
Whatever. But just wanting to know where music came from, period. Just the root of it. So, I play roots music. I love old time music. It's been a part of my life. The building blocks of American music.
Yeah.
I was just listening to this amazing fiddle tune from 1937 a couple days ago. That's where I've listened 1927 recordings. If I had not listened to the Stones, I don't know how I would have gotten there. I know I would have, but that was the thing. Listening to the Stones put me onto that path of like digging up stuff. And it was a really good time for me to the fact that, I mean, Dylan and the Stones within a couple years, like when I listened to Bob Dylan stuff, I was knocked out. I wasn't thinking about where he got this from or anything. I mean, I was just hearing him do it. I didn't have a lot of knowledge of anything, nothing, obviously I knew the Beatles as a young kid, all this stuff, but I mean, I didn't get anywhere, nothing before 1965 or whatever, or nothing before that. But then when the Stones, when I got into them and I really liked what I was hearing, it just made me want to look into what their influences were. So, I mean, that is, I took up a journey then, which has led me to not just country blues and old blues guys, but, Appalachian music, fiddle music, dulcimer music, which led me to Greek rimbetica,
Whoa.
Jewish, folk music from Europe in the late, as early as it was recorded. I've been down that path. I'm still into the sounds that I hear. And those sounds are amazing to me. That's just like the raw, natural power of an individual that, it was part of storytelling and singing and dancing.
Sure.
That's part of the fabric of telling your story and telling the history of your people, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And that's all, that's captivating to me.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's still, it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, the Stones put me in that direction for sure.
So when you are at a spot where FM radio has given you whatever it's given you Stones wise, and you're like, I want to go down the album path and get, where did you start, and how did Exile earn a spot on your list?
So it was. So there was oh man, there was Velvet Underground. I think I was taking in a lot of music. I just met some cool people, and at this time when I was like 17, 18, 19, that was a big time, right? So Velvet Underground blew my mind. Stones, the early Stones stuff were there, but I ended up at Exile because that was, to me, it sounded like the most original thing that they had done. Like, Sticky Fingers is fantastic right now. I mean, Let It Bleed, right? But for some reason, I took to this album, probably because the first song, Rocks Off, is incredible, right? I don't know. But they do everything on this album. They do rock and roll. They do their own version of their rock and roll. They do some traditional rock and roll. They do old time stuff. Acoustic, where they do a country thing. And I mean, I would turn this album on and play along and learn guitar.
Wow.
Learn guitar chops.
Wow.
And I would do that. I mean, honestly, I did. It's almost not crazy, but I think I listened to the Stones every day. It feels like 3 years. 3 years in a row. Not just them solely, but I listened. I would dig in. I would try to learn. The songs are not hard to figure out, but I would continually try to add my own thing to whatever these chords were.
Nice.
Just like trying to figure out my own self-expression.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, the Stones were there a lot. But, like I said, so was Velvet Underground. So was a local band in town called Vacuum Scam. Friends of mine, it was like the early like post punk, kind of power pop. Like, let's see, there's a band called Big Drill Car.
Okay.
Descendants, obviously you might know Descendants, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a time in the late 80s, just into 90, 91, 92, that there was like this different type of power pop type thing that was happening, real melodic, not Green Day. Actually, my friend's band, Vacuum Scam, did open for Green Day.
Oh, funny.
Which I was at that show. So I didn't really like Green Day at the. Actually, I didn't. It was just a punk rock show. I mean, 300 people
Yeah.
tops. But so they were in that, like, I don't know what you call it, but it was melodic power pop, post punk.
Okay.
That was all going on at the same time. I mean, I think probably, from 17 to 21. I mean, everything from Bob Marley, Descendants, Fugazi, everything. Stones. I mean, Neil Young. I mean, it was like, I was lucky enough to meet some of the right people, and I mean, I knew a lot about music at that point, but I mean,
Sure.
I didn't, I didn't, I didn't know what Velvet Underground was until I was, whatever, right around that time, 17, 18.
Sure.
It was just that, I was a skateboarder. I was into music, but skateboarding really led me to meet one guy. We became friends, and he was like 4 years older than me. All his friends, whom I'm still friends with to this day, but all that time period, the Stones ended up kind of like just being there because I could go from the Stones to Muddy Waters.
Sure.
And I mean, the first time I listened to Robert Johnson, I mean, I still feel the same way actually to this day. I mean, when I hear Robert Johnson, I'm like it's like an ethereal thing. It's like barely even music to me. I mean, it's just like language. I don't even know what it's a sound. It's a thing. I mean, I've never tried to learn one of his songs. I never tried to sing like him, but that I just let that spirit go in, and that's where the Stones were always a big deal. So yeah, that was a huge time. I learned a lot of, I learned a lot of guitar stuff.
Sure.
Had a lot of good times just cranking it up
Yeah.
and surviving Green Bay as it were. At that time.
Yeah.
So
Life.
yeah,
20s. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Did you, stay, we talked about sort of keeping up with Bob and keeping up with Neil. Have you stay in touch with studio stuff of the Stones, throughout 80s, 90s, 2000s?
I mean, not really. I mean, I saw the Stones in Chicago. I saw the Stones in Chicago and Milwaukee in like a 2 year span. That was during, I don't even know what tour it was. Bridges to Babylon was one thing. But no, I don't keep up. I mean, it's just, it's just kind of, I mean,
Sure.
I mean, they are what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I think, Mick is an entertainer. He's a performer. He's a true capitalist. I mean, I think he could be doing some other shit. He just doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Keith Richards, I keep up with him. He's still my guy. Charlie Rotz, rest in peace. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I don't keep up with that. I mean, as soon as, so if you want to, like, for an exclamation point, you'd be like, hey, Rolling Stones, Exile on Main Street, 1992, right? I started on my own path of, like, trying to write music. So I still listen to music. I'm a fan, of a ton of stuff. But my world, like, my musical world just, like, continued to bloom.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I love music, so I am an open. I'm like an open book. Like let me hear some of that. Let me hear some of this. I'm always looking for that. You know, I mean, it's. I was looking at, trying to dial in some of these, these albums are important and stuff like that. And I was like, man, I don't have anything from 2000 and like, 5 on basically. I mean, I don't have, oh man, I love, this person is the one. This is the one. I'm just like, I mean, actually, I was listening to the Fritz Hutchison episode that you did, and he mentioned Big Thief.
Yeah.
And so my friends told me about Big Thief a number of months ago. Come to find out, my Melissa, she had been playing it for a yoga studio. Like she'd known about them whenever I don't know when the band started, right? But at the point in time when someone said, "Hey, check out Big Thief," they said, "Check out this song." I don't remember what it was. This is still, I mean, within 18 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it was, but at that time, I was like, "Yeah, it's all right. I'm just move on." Was it, I had either I just wasn't focused, or the song didn't hit me at the time, right? So, fast forward to, I mean, just a few weeks ago, like, no, a week ago, I'm like, man, I gotta check into this one more time here, And I listened to this album, I can't remember the name of it, and I'm like, I'm just so in love with the singer, the words that she's doing, the uniqueness she's singing. It's interesting, it's different. She's very much just a powerful, just an individual.
Yeah.
She's really doing something that's very unique to her, and I had an absolute blast. I mean, I listened to that album, and there's, I can't remember it's something warm dragon, something or other. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to that thing, and there's like it's a double album. There's like 20 some songs on it.
Oh wow.
I mean, I couldn't get enough of it.
Nice.
And I'm still like, that is great, So as soon as I started like getting into writing songs and really trying to figure this thing out, now everything, it's just like I don't sit on one thing at all.
Sure.
I'm just, every day is I mean, I can look, and I do look for everything.
Cool.
And I mean, honestly, I mean, I have to say that the type of work that I do, I mainly work alone, although I work for a small company. I am afforded the ability to listen to whatever I want, basically all day long. And I'm huge. I love psychology. I love history, music. Most top
Sure.
of the heap. But I am afforded a place where I can work, I can make the money to do the do. But more importantly, I can, I can learn.
Yeah.
I can learn on the job about,
Whatever you choose.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, music, I mean, it's perfect. I mean, there are compromises to everything, right? But, and I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to people talk. I'm a huge radio guy.
Nice.
I mean, I love radio.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I'm a driveway moment kind of guy, as they say on their those fun drives.
Well, we go from a couple of rock staples with Bob and the Stones, and we move into the 80s, 1981, Diary of a Madman. Ozzy.
Well, yeah, so that's all, like, so this is like, so we're working backwards, right? So this is, I don't know why I found this. I don't know how I found it. I don't know what album was at the house. My brother was into classic rock and, all the, whatever. I'm not going to mention all the bands, but I ended up with a tape of this album, and I still to this day, I mean, I don't know exactly why, but I mean, it definitely resonated to like a body rhythm. Sort of. I know. I mean, I was already on this trip even before this. Okay. This is 81, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I first heard Buddy Holly, more importantly, when I first heard Roy Orbison.
Okay.
I was a wee small child. And the sounds of that person's voice was, just total, out of this world. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. As a kid, it was just, mystery and cool. And the melodies were just something I gravitated toward. So, I mean, I don't even know why, but, I mean, Ozzy Osbourne and, having a Walkman and being able to, pump music into my head while I was on my paper route or whatever I was doing, going to my baseball games, whatever. There was something about his melodies that I just really liked. I wasn't like, I mean, it was just exciting, I don't know. I mean, I had the whole thing, as young kids do. And I mean, I had the whole thing, almost the whole thing memorized.
Of course, it's shorty.
I mean, it was just the melody of the stuff. And I mean, I didn't care about like the guitar playing. It was the song.
Sure.
And it was the singing.
Yeah.
And that was just an extension of that the early years for me listening to music. I loved the voice.
Okay.
Emmylou Harris.
Yeah, oh yeah.
As a kid, the textures of, going from Emmylou to Elvis, Roy Orbison, Buddy Holly, and Stone's early stuff. The Beatles, it's like I'm listening to the Beatles' White Album when I'm like, all in that time period. My parents are playing this stuff. I go from the Beatles' White Album to CCR. It couldn't be further, I don't know how many planets apart. But those are the seams that, like,
sure.
I was weaving that stuff together pretty early. So
did you ever, I mean, I gotta believe at some point you took in Traveling Wilburys.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing like
Roy's voice. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm down with the Wilburys. Yeah, heck yeah.
What about, did you ever check out Emmylou's record with Mark Knopfler, All the Road Running?
No, I have not.
Oh, I mean, it's early 2000s.
Okay.
I'm not a student of hers by any chance, but anytime I sit down and listen to her, or she happens to be just by circumstance, I'm like,
well,
she gets uncredited tracks on some Bob stuff, Blood on the Tracks.
Yeah. I know she was around. There's a bunch of outtakes that she was in a couple sessions for around that time. But for Emmylou, seeing, I mean, it's kind of attached to obviously great voice, but my mother loved Emmylou.
Sure.
And my mom's happiness was infectious. And I listened to a lot of Emmylou with my mom, but I never went for it on my own because it's like, that's my mom's, whatever. But when you end up finding as the years go by, and Rolling Stones, you end up, learning about a guy named Graham Parsons. Mm. And then, you're like, Graham Parsons played with Emmylou. And then you're like, what? 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 Emmylou and Graham Parsons together is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just exquisite. The way their two voices together is out of hand, So that's like, sure, 1979, I'm listening to Emmylou, looking at the album, Emmylou on the album cover and just being like, Super Crush.
Yeah.
Like, what? Nice
Yeah.
boots. I mean, what is this,
Yeah.
It was exciting,
Yeah.
And then just be like, oh, that's my mom's deal.
Sure.
I'll get back to it. Not that it didn't take me, 25 years to get back to Emmylou at all, but it was, so she was always there. But then, finding out that this is what Emmylou was before.
Right. Right.
Like, I didn't know the story about how Emmylou got onto that album cover. So when I look back onto that stuff as a kid, that's all the history of the music, the making of the person,
Yeah.
I love that. I have those memories, but now I know a little bit more about how this person ended up with her name on this album. She made her deal. She, she did what she was good at, and we get to, enjoy the benefits of that.
So solo Ozzy record. Did you ever have a Sabbath pocket or just?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, Children of the Corn is I've still tried to replicate. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it. I tried to write one song one time to have that beat happening from that song, Children of the Corn, or Children of the Grave. Come on. Children of the Corn. That was
He
the
wants
that was
you
the movie.
too, Malachi.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, too funny. But no, Sabbath. Yeah, I mean, I've listened to every Sabbath thing
Cool.
ever.
Well, we stick in the '80s for a hot minute, and move to '88 with EP7.
Oh, Fugazi.
EP 7 songs.
Oh, yeah.
Fugazi 6
Oh, yeah, baby.
6 studio records for them, 4 EPs. This is the first of those 4 7 tracks, 23 minutes. Post-hardcore
88
means what to you? I mean, this is what
that doesn't really mean anything. To
Okay,
me. I don't
okay.
know. I don't know what that means.
How'd you get turned on to Fugazi?
During all those years, like I said, all those years with sans this guy. I mean, this was all happening. All this shit was happening.
Nice.
Skateboarding.
Oh yeah.
Punk
That's
rock.
Right. That's right.
The punk rock world. Green Bay. Fugazi. My friends turned me on to them. 17, 18, whatever it was. Fugazi. This, I mean, I don't really know any other Fugazi stuff. I know like
I only knew Repeater before.
I know
before
about that.
Okay.
But these 7 songs are, I mean, for me, and I have listened to some other Fugazi stuff as well. It never really caught me that much, but these songs, for whatever reason, are just, I love them all, which is rare for anything. But I'm really into all these songs, and I think a big part of actually identifying more with these songs was the time period of living in Green Bay when, we would have a lot of great bands coming through town.
Cool.
Descendants always came through town. NoFX, Fugazi, 7 Seconds. There's always been a good scene like that, but this time period, I mean, 88, I guess that'd be about right. I think I saw them in 89.
You saw Fugazi?
I saw them multiple times, but
Oh, wow.
one time was when within a certain time period, I met a bunch of people, right? And my buddy, who was a very big influence on me, sort of helped me spread my roots, within town, even as I was growing up. But I saw Fugazi at whatever the venue was. God, I want to call it the Alley. I can't remember. But I saw them play, and I'm pretty sure I was 17. But they played multiple tracks off this album.
Really?
And I was, I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean,
Flip the
I,
lid.
I was so, I mean, I laughed, cried, yelled, I mean, I had all of the best feels that you could possibly pack in. And I mean, I remember it. I can still remember moments of the show, the feeling of the people around me, the spirit of what was going on. You know, the friendships that I had made within the year prior. You know, I mean, it wasn't just the music. It was the social. You know, you could feel the culture of Green Bay as the positive side of it, you know, which there was so much like, you know, not positive. Just living and doing, you know, classic rock
grind,
and do the grind, work your job. You know, don't dream too much.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you pay your bills.
Yeah.
And this time period was such a confluence of like realizing that, you know, there were other things to do, and there was happiness, and there was
get to Maine and pick some berries, man. Get out of here.
dude, blueberry pancakes from straight off the Barrens. It's a good thing.
Nice.
Yeah, so Fugazi, I mean, I still go back to this. I go back to this album a couple times a year.
Nice. Well, that was a treat for me, but the biggest treat of your whole list, La Llorona, Lhasa de Sela from 1997, 11 tracks, 44 minutes. American-Canadian singer-songwriter raised in Mexico and the U.S., with adult life divided between Canada and France. Where does this gal come from? I mean, and what a beautiful record.
Oh my God, this is I still get chills kind of thinking about it. So probably, let's see, I guess it was 2000, around 2000, I moved to Kansas City, met some people, became friends, and this person, dear friend Jennifer Field, gave me this album.
Really?
And I think the part, I mean, the language difference, and when you really dig into like, I mean, for me, lyrical rhythm and melody, listening to other languages sing, there's a little bit more of a mystique, so I'm a little bit more captivated. And then plus there's this really sensual thing about her voice.
Absolutely.
That is, I mean, there's nothing like her that I've heard. Now you can go to, I mean, I encourage everybody to listen to Billie Holiday. But, and then, you know, the millions of other great female singers that I have never heard. But Lhasa strikes a chord with me. And the elegance, and as a matter of fact, I mean, when I listened to this album, I mean, I probably listened to it 2 times. I knew that was I don't know, maybe I didn't have it right at the time, but I wanted to have a band, and I wanted to do things like this.
I was like, listening to this, I was like, I gotta go create something. I need to get it. I don't know what it is. I absolutely.
The freedom, actually, I don't want to say that freedom. I overuse the term freedom zone, but I had that when I was listening to this, and I think, oddly enough, I think it was at a time where I was really digging on some Tom Waits stuff too, because there's something, I can't recall this exactly, but there were multiple musical forces happening that were kind of just lining up.
Cool.
And so when I heard Lhasa and heard the album, and, and I've been doing, I've played tons of acoustic stuff and written songs, whatever, not a ton. I'm not prolific at all. But, when I heard that, I was just like, put me on stage.
Put me in, coach.
Put me in, coach. I want to sing that stuff.
Yeah.
I want a band to do it. And that's like, that's still like my, people always, like when you're growing up, they're like, well, you got to have a backup plan. Like my backup plan is totally stupid. My backup plan is like, when I'm done with work, I'm going to put together a band like this. And this is how I'm going to, this is what I want to ride into the, go around the planet on.
Cool.
That's what I want to do.
Cool.
That vibe, the way that the musicians play so well, like I mentioned earlier, where the negative space is positive, it's a tool. This band, I don't even know who's in the band. But yeah, and she is, she died on New Year's Day.
I didn't catch that. I didn't know she was gone.
I can't remember the year. But yeah, New Year's Day is always kind of a big day in my
Good day to put her on.
Musical heart.
Nice.
Oh yeah, and she's done some. I just encourage everybody to listen to Lhasa de Sela, and just check out what she's done.
Yeah.
In her brief life, yeah.
Twice since we sat down, have thrown out Robert Johnson, and Robert Johnson, attached to 1998, was sort of part of your list. I wasn't sure if there was a particular record, or if you just wanted to give him shouts out in general.
I think that I'm not sure what I was referencing, but I know that when I first heard Robert Johnson, it was, like, seeing like a rainbow for the first time. You're just like, what is this? What the heck is that? I really, what? And, and then it takes a certain amount of, for me, it took a certain amount of listening to music and doing things and listening to, listening to certain roots music, but then there was a time where then you hear it again, and then it kind of shows you, it shows you some of its power.
Sure.
It shows its emotion in a different way.
Yeah.
And then, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened in 90, whatever I mentioned, but that's some of those things, like I said, with the Big Thief thing,
Yeah.
It didn't hit me right away. That's happened to me multiple times in life. Because, I have a lot going on musically. I have a lot going on in life. So if I'm like, I am moving, so someone can give me a suggestion. Sometimes I'll forget about it.
Yeah.
Or I just won't look into it. And then
sometimes it just doesn't, the timing's not right. And then 20 years later, you're like, oh, shit, that was...
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember what was happened when I first listened to this, but I like it now.
And I sent a message to my buddy that told me about Big Thief that day. I was like, I don't know what I missed when you told me about this band, but I'm loving this today. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
After just a very small handful of episodes after Fritz's, somebody else had a different Big Thief. And when Fritz had him, I had never heard of him before. I was like, oh, cool. And I checked. Adrian Lanker, I think is the front gal's name.
That's great.
And then somebody else had it down. I was like, wait, what? Anyway.
Yeah. It spreads. This is, this is why we do what we're doing right now is, you spread those words.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, as I mentioned, I like to wrap with a series of goofy questions, and so if we can hammer those out and get you out of here, I really appreciate you being here. David Regnier.
That's correct.
Regnier.
That's correct.
Your Facebook page is the spot to be for folks that want to see what you might have going on musically.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So the first is lunch with anyone, dead or alive. You're choosing who and why.
Oh, lunch with anyone.
Or a coffee or a beer.
I mean, probably Keith Richards.
Okay, I wondered if you... Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Keith Richards and Patti Smith. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't even mentioned her, but those are just, Patti would be, yeah, I mean, yeah. I'll stick with Keith Richards.
Awesome. If we can agree that we all sort of have a personal and a professional bucket list. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're given the resources, everything you need to hammer out your number one on your personal and your professional. What would those be?
So you say personal and professional?
Yeah, and sometimes I guess they're one and the same. You know?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I'll go with the last idea that I really was into, and I hope that I can still make this happen. But I would like to put together a trio, if not quartet, of musicians, and spend a month in Cuba.
Ooh.
With them.
Whoa.
I think I lean toward the trio because then we can build the band while we're there. I want to play music in Cuba with local musicians very badly.
Cool. That's fantastic.
That's one thing, I guess, professionally wise. I mean, you might as well just put that in personal too, because if anything does work out, I'll be like, the family's going to Cuba for a month.
There you go. Pack your bag. You're given the ability to visit your past self at any age you're choosing. What age are you choosing, and what are you saying?
I would say, let's see, I'll pick one of the wrong turns that I've made. I would go to the age of 20. I would go to the age of 26, I think. And I would tell myself that be patient. There's plenty to do in life.
Cool. That's fantastic. I love that. Complete this for me, please. The world would immediately become a better place in which to live if only...
I think if only we as human beings can be less selfish.
Ooh.
And understand how difficult and worthy that work is.
Kick ass.
That would be a thing.
Last but not least, this is a true or false. It is okay and acceptable to wear the t-shirt of the band whose show you're going to.
Wear it.
Wear it?
Fucking wear it, dude. Hell, wear it, dude. Celebrate, man. Celebrate it. I'm totally down.
So there's some Dead Voices releases on Bandcamp if one wanted to check out any other place to point some folks where they could hear your stuff? Or
Well, I mean, that's the main thing. Dead Voices KC / Bandcamp. That's the easiest way to get there. There is another Dead Voices there's a Dead Voices on air. There's a couple other whatever things that use that term. So Dead Voices KC / Bandcamp. That's where you can find the 2 albums that we did together. And really, yeah, my Facebook thing is, that's where I will post music.
Sure.
There is stuff to be released. I just haven't done it. Just kind of working on writing the next hit,
Sure.
Yeah, Bandcamp and Facebook.
Cool.
Or you can call me if you can find my number.
Right.
Call me anytime.
There you go. Just ring 3674. What's it? Dirty
8675309.
No. Call me anytime. Just ring. It's the line in Dirty Deeds Thunder Chief. I lead a life.
I was thinking more of the My Llorona thing,
No.
Or I forget that band. Yeah.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate you sharing a part of your Saturday
you,
with
Blair.
me. Thanks.
I appreciate it, man.
All right. Bye.
All right, bud.